En nuestro capítulo especial de hoy, Shep Hyken es un reconocido gurú del servicio al cliente, autor bestseller y conferencista internacional. Con más de 8 libros publicados, incluyendo The Amazement Revolution, ha ayudado a empresas como Microsoft y American Express a construir relaciones leales con sus clientes. Es columnista en Forbes.com y creador de la serie Be Amazing or Go Home en Amazon Prime. Miembro del Salón de la Fama de la Asociación Nacional de Conferencistas, Shep enseña cómo crear experiencias memorables que transforman a los clientes en promotores de por vida.
Hello everyone, Shep Hyken here, Customer Service and Experience Expert, and I'm honored that my colleague and Customer Experience Expert in Latin America, Mauricio Duarte, invited me to have a conversation about customer experience. Now here are a few of the highlights of our conversation. Number one, customer experience starts with a mindset. In my conversation with Mauricio, I shared how my parents helped me develop a customer service mindset for my first business. Now you have to watch the video to get the full story, but the concepts I learned were foundational to what I teach and preach today. And that includes showing gratitude, timely follow-up, getting feedback, and more. Number two, service is not a department, it's a philosophy. Customer service and experience must be embedded across the organization, starting at the top and embraced by every team member. Number three, AI must support, not replace, human connection. While AI brings efficiency, the real challenge is to maintain human warmth in customer relationships. Companies must strike a balance between the digital and human-to-human experiences. And number four, we must go from transactional to relational. Real customer experience goes beyond isolated purchases. Those are transactions. We want to have interactions. It's about building trust for the next time. Emotional connection leads to loyalty. So that's a brief summary of just a few of the topics that we covered in our conversation. Be sure to watch the entire episode. Thanks for watching this video. This is Shep Hyken reminding you to always be amazing.
Hola, les habla Mauricio Duarte, director de SEO CX. En esta oportunidad quiero pedirles un favor muy especial. Tenemos muchísimas personas que todos los días ven nuestros episodios. No obstante, no se suscriben. Y para nosotros, la base de nuestro crecimiento y mayor alcance con nuestros invitados depende de esa suscripción. Así que, por favor, suscríbete. Muchas gracias.
Chef, it's a great honor being here with you today. Once again, it's a complete pleasure talking with an expert of the field of CX.
Well, thanks. Great to be here. And it's great to see you again. It's been a few years. You haven't changed.
It's been quite a couple of years, so it's good to talk again with you, and it's a complete honor for our audience to have this conversation with you regarding CX. So with any further delay, Chef, I know you're very busy, and again, thanks for your time and sharing your knowledge with our audience. I always like to have these conversations about the person. Then we'll go into the topic of customer centricity and experience. Why did you started feeling passionate about CX, and why you became a professional and now a visible expert and a world-renowned author in this topic? Why did you
Why
start?
Well, I can go, so much of what we learned from our parents. And when I was a little kid, my parents taught me about customer service without really teaching me that it was customer service. I had a business when I was 12 years old. I did birthday party magic shows, and I came home one day and my mom said, make sure you write a thank you note to these people that just paid you a lot of money to perform for their kids. And I was only 12. I go, okay, that's a good idea. My dad says, follow up, make sure they were happy. So a week later I would call, and this was my habit after every show that I booked. And then my dad said, ask them what tricks they like the best and really listen. And you'll start to see a pattern of what they like and talk about and what they don't talk about. And he said, replace what they don't talk about with tricks they will talk about. So basically what I was learning was how to show appreciation to my clients, my customers, the parents of these kids that I perform for. Number two, it's the follow-up, getting the feedback, voice of the customer, if you will. Number three, recognizing there's opportunity in the feedback to create a better show, which in a sense is process improvement or quality improvement of whatever the experience is, the show, the product, the regular customer support that people have. But the bottom line is, this is what I was learning. I had no idea that it would become ingrained in my brain. And every job I ever had, I thought about, am I making this customer happy? I'm in a restaurant. Am I making the guest happy? What am I doing to make sure they want to come back next time? So when I graduated college and wasn't sure what I wanted to do, other than maybe do a magic show, I saw a couple of motivational speakers, and I thought, I can do that. I can talk and I can entertain at the same time. And I went to the bookstore, and all the books that I was drawn to, and I didn't realize it till after I looked at them, they were all on customer service and experience. You may remember Ron Zemke and Carl Albrecht wrote a number of books on service. And then Tom Peters wrote In Search of Excellence, which was a combination of service and experience before customer experience was even a term that most people talked about. So that's really where it all started. And by the way, that whole idea of customer experience did come from customer service when somebody said, let's call it something special, sexier, if you will. Instead of service, let's call it experience. And then somebody smarter said, hey, it's not just service and support, it's everything from the very beginning of a person's journey on whether they want to do business with you. Maybe it's even in a Google search to all the way to the point where they are and then coming back again and again. So anyway, that's a long-winded answer to a very, very good question. Thank you for asking.
No, not at all. It explains a lot why your thoughts and your books explain so well, because it is embedded in yourself from very early on in your life. Yep. So thanks for sharing. Picking up on some of your parts of your answer, let me take this to the corporate world. Being so common sense, why, in your experience dealing with all these companies, it is so hard for organizations to really take CX as the main topic of their agenda? Why is it so complicated?
Right. Well, common sense, it's not always so common, as we've learned, right? And so there are two sides of this that I want to address. We talk about customer service, we talk about customer experience, and some companies talk about them interchangeably. And they really are, in my opinion, part of the same thing, but service is part of experience. Customer service, there's somebody once said, customer service is what happens when the experience fails. And what they're saying is customer support is what happens when the experience fails. I believe customer service is part of the beginning of the journey. You could even argue that if I go onto a website and it's a good experience, it's easy to navigate and understand and easy to check out, they've created a good experience. That's part of the service philosophy. So I know I'm getting a little bit away from your question, but service is not a department. It's a philosophy that is ingrained in every employee's role and responsibility. The experience, however, is much bigger than that. Now, to your specific question, why are companies struggling to understand just how important it is? Let me tell you what's going to happen today, especially, and I know we're going to be talking about AI. AI, yes. The cost has come so down in price. It is so reasonable that even small companies can afford to create a better experience. Companies are starting to realize, brands, whether it be B2B or B2C, it doesn't matter. They're starting to recognize that there are other places to buy whatever it is that we sell. Most of the time, that's the case. And about the only thing we have to really separate ourselves, it's like we've almost become a commodity. We have to be careful. Pricing could become an issue. People become loyal to price, not necessarily your company or your brand. But we need to recognize that really the only way to differentiate ourselves is through the experience that we create. And we need to start with the people. Are the people doing what they're supposed to do? Do they have the thought process, and not just about how to take care of a customer when they're interacting with them, but if you're not dealing directly with a customer, you support somebody that is, or you're part of the process. What you do is part of the process that it will impact that customer's end experience. So when you start to recognize that, you start to say, okay, what do people need to do? What are the kind of people we need to hire? What are the kind of thinkers that we want when we hire people? So that's the basic philosophy. I actually think about this all the time. I should write a book that says this is the last customer service book you're ever going to need. Now, again, customer service, a little different than experience. And basically, it's me as a person, how am I supposed to treat either my internal or external customer? And it's real easy. Be nice. Follow up and do what you say you're going to do. In other words, keep your words. Show up on time, if not even a little bit early. When you're there, do your best. These are the basic tenets of really a good employee, not just good service. But when you start to recognize that it's common sense, and then you start getting people to think, okay, if I'm going to create a process, I'm going to start being service-minded. I'm going to think with the customer at the end. With the end in mind, what do I want that customer to experience? Then I'm going to work backwards. Anyway, I believe companies who are starting to think this way are recognizing the opportunity to differentiate themselves from one company to another is going to be the experience. I mentioned AI. This is even more important because it's accelerating this idea that if anybody can now deliver that great experience. So if you choose to sit on the sidelines and not make the proper investment, which by the way is very small, as I mentioned, compared to what it was years ago, 2014, 15, 10 years ago, I would go to IBM conferences and go to their Watson conferences. And I went to something called Cognitive College, was to understand how AI and people interact with each other. It was fascinating. But to implement that solution 10 years ago could cost $500,000, $1 million or more, right? Today, if I've got a contact center, or even any small group of people that are taking care of a customer in the support world, I can implement artificial intelligence for $25, $30, $40 a person per month. It's nothing. We can afford to do it. Here's what's going to happen. Catch up and keep up isn't about keeping up with the competition anymore. It's about getting back the customers you lost because you weren't as good as your competition, and the market share you lost because you weren't as good as your competition at delivering the experience. That's where the catch up and keep up comes in. It's no longer, I'm going to just try to catch up with the technology that others are using. You have to look at the experience, I guess, the result of not implementing that technology.
Okay, great. Let's follow up with the AI revolution. It is a transformational technology, all-purpose technology, certainly for experts like you and I regarding CX. What are the because it's always about creating human connections and emotion, so people can remember us and come back and word of mouth. What are the pitfalls and what are the upsides of this technology, Shep?
Sure. I think we're starting to recognize the pitfall. Some companies have gone all in on the technology and they've dropped most of their live people-to-people type support. You mentioned something at the very beginning of the question. It's about relationships. It's about people-to-people. Yet AI is coming in and actually is it putting up a wall between the relationship people have human to human and the relationship with the company based on the process. And I think that the best companies have figured out the balance. You cannot eliminate the human-to-human experience. Here in the US, we've had an airline that about 2 years ago or so eliminated all contact with human-to-human customer support. Now, my flight gets canceled. What happens is, supposedly, I'm supposed to receive an email or a text message saying your flight's canceled. Here are the options. Click one that you want, and we'll get you on that next flight, okay? And that, in theory, sounds like it's great until it doesn't work, until, wait a minute, the flight I want isn't going to work in my schedule. You're telling me I can't have a flight until 3 days from now because you're so busy? This is a kind of issue where now I need to call and talk to somebody. Maybe I need to cancel my flight, and I need to find another airline. I need human support sometimes to help me get that. And if you take that away from me, I'm just going to become more frustrated with your airline. Even though for a good number of people, it's going to be a perfect situation where, I get that email and I click and just like that, I'm on another flight. But again, what if it's not? So these companies have started to backpedal. And by the way, I just use that as an example. There are other companies that have done this as well. They're backpedaling and realizing they have to still have human-to-human support. So there needs to be a balance. What we want to do is we want to try to get our customers to get the information they need, the questions they have answered, problems resolved in the easiest, most efficient way possible that makes them happy. And that last part, that makes them happy. If all you do is give them digital support, you may not make all of your customers happy because they want to talk to somebody. We have in our research, and we have new research that's going to come out in 2025, but in 2024, the number one way customers like to reach out to the companies they do business with is on the phone by 70%. So
Wow.
a lot of that is driven by older customers, by the way, younger Gen Zs and Gen Xers, and I'm not Gen Xers, Gen Zs and millennials. They are looking at more digital support. As a matter of fact, I'll share with you some stats and facts. It's in 2024, 62% of customers expect AI technology to become the primary mode of customer support in the future, or customer service in the future. Now, that doesn't mean we're doing away with the human-to-human experience. What it means is, for my first wave of support, by the way, the first thing I do when I want to call somebody is I want to go online to get their phone number. So I go to their website, I get their phone number. I'm already using the digital experience. Why do I then want to switch to the analog? Well, that's just what I've been used to. That's what I've grown up with. Maybe I think my issue's complicated. I don't know how to express it properly, so I need to talk to somebody. But what if I can get you right at that moment where you're looking at the phone number to try another option? If I gave you a choice of getting your answer right now or waiting 10 minutes after I made a phone call and I'm put on hold and I'm authenticated, et cetera, which would you rather have? The first. You'd rather get your answers immediately. So what we want to do is create the experience that gives our customers that option to get the answer immediately. And if they don't take the easy way, and it really was easy, if all I needed was to know a shipment has gone out, or what's my bank balance, or did you receive my check? I don't need to wait on hold to talk to a customer service rep. But if my customer service rep that I finally talked to says, hey, by the way, how'd you get our phone number? Oh, I went on your website. Did you notice right next to it? And now that customer service rep teaches me for the next time. And guess what happened? I just experienced a human-to-human experience that told me to go digital. And if I like it, I've maintained that relationship. What we want to do is create a relationship of trust with our customers, clients, guests, whatever we want to call them. And we want to do that by saying, hey, I've got your back, no matter how you reach out to me. We hope that you try the digital experience because it's easier, it's more efficient, you'll get your answers quicker, but we're here to support you if you need us.
Great. Chef, regarding one of your last parts of your answer is how do you translate transactional to relational part of the equation? I mean, most of people are just transactional. How do you bond into more of a relationship? What is your best advice in that regard?
Sure. I think, first of all, it's a mindset. We need to stop thinking transaction. We need to think interaction. So if all you're doing is trying to get that one sale, all you're doing is creating a transaction. But if you're looking at a longer term and you're looking at a bigger picture, you'll start to think differently about the experience you create. You'll think differently about the way you deal with the problem. We're never trying to create an experience where it ends after they finally give us the paycheck. We want them to think about what it is going to take to get them back next time. So I want you to think about a question. I call it the loyalty question, which really isn't true. It's the next time question, which turns into loyalty. So what I've always said is loyalty is not about a lifetime. It's about the next time, every time. If you can focus on what you're doing right now to make sure we're creating the experience that's beyond give me money and here's your product or whatever it is. if I can add something to that that's going to endear you to me at another level, at a more emotional level, and by emotion is simply I love doing business with them, or I like doing business with them. That positive feeling is emotion. It's not like emotional touchy feely. It's really the emotion of getting you to say, I trust that the next time I do business with them, it's going to be the same as the last time and the time before and the time before. When I can create that trust, that emotional connection, what happens is customers say, I don't want to take a chance on doing business with somebody else. Now that I've got somebody that I know gets me, that gives me the way, the product the way I like it, that gets me the experience that I want.
Okay. And when that, because obviously organizations, and by definition, organizations are made up of people, we will commit mistakes, we will fail. How do you rebuild trust? Because definitely organizations are designed to provide the best possible service, but in occasions they will fail.
Right.
What's the best advice in rebuilding trust with your customers?
Well, first and foremost, you need to make it easy to get anything resolved. So I know you've heard me talk about this in my speeches. My 5-step process is if somebody does have a problem and they reach out to us, here's how I want them to think. Number one and two can be interchangeable. I want you to acknowledge this customer's issue and apologize for it. So you can say, I understand that you feel that way. I'd feel that way as well if that happened to me. I'm really sorry. Of course, you can acknowledge any way you want, and you can say, I'm sorry, and apologize for the experience happening. That doesn't mean it's your fault when you apologize. It means that you're accepting responsibility on behalf of the company. So 1 and 2, acknowledge, apologize, or the other way on. Number 3, talk about what your fix is going to be. How am I going to resolve this issue? Is it something I can do right away? Is it something that's going to take time? And whatever it is, discuss what it is. Number 4, if I'm a customer, I want to be talking with somebody that I feel has some level of authority to take care of me. And that means, number 4 is we own whatever comes our way. If we have to pass it off to somebody else, we do so in such a way that gives that customer the confidence that, hey, I'm really glad you called. You know who's better suited for this? My colleague, Mauricio. He knows this better than anybody. Hold on, let me make sure he's available. And then I transfer you to him. And that doesn't mean it's over. I've kind of accepted and assumed the role of responsibility of that first initial contact. So anyway, I'm going to go over these real quick. Acknowledge, apologize, fix it, own it. And number 5, this is where so much of the relationship is restored, the confidence. And that is we act with urgency. How quickly can we make this happen for our customer? How quickly can we resolve the issue? And the urgency is often what gives that customer that renewed confidence to continue to do business with us again. See, every moment of truth or interaction that we have is an opportunity for us to create that moment of magic, and that's that positive experience, even when it's a moment of misery. Because if we handle it the right way, customers will say, I love doing business with them. Even when there's a problem, I know I can count on them to take care of me. And that's the key. We want them to know that even when there's a problem, we've got their back.
Okay, wow. So useful, Chef. In your enormous experience worldwide and dealing with organizations of all type of products and services, how do you connect the importance of the CX culture, the philosophy all across, to the C-level? Do you reframe it around the economics of the experience? What is your advice there?
Sure. So there's 2 questions there that you have, even though you've asked one. One is the C-level. To me, it starts at the C-level. You don't go to the C-level and says, let's become customer focused. Because if they're not going to buy into it at that level, the company's never going to be customer focused. So it starts with the C-level. Now, if I go to the C-level and I say, hey, I'm here, I've got this idea that's going to create a better experience. As a C-suite member, I'm going to say, okay, I'll listen to you, but show me the money. I'll invest in anything that's going to create the experience for my customers to be a little bit better, but I need to know that there's ROI on top of it. if we do something that just it balances out to be a zero-sum gain, all we're doing is, we're just keeping up. But what we want to do is we want to make this, to me, if you do this the right way, the experience shouldn't cost a company and their investment. It should make money for their investment. So if I've got a new piece of technology, if I want to invest in AI, I need to, number one, show, I know my CEO, very customer focused, but I need to come in and say, here's a solution. It's going to cost X number of dollars for us to implement. We've got X number of people in the support center or on the front line. And what we're going to do is we're going to save an average of 2 minutes per interaction that we have with our customers. Now, when you take a look at what the salaries are of these people, this is what 2 minutes times number of people times number of hours translates to. And as you can see, implementing AI is going to save us this money and at the same time create a better experience for our customers. By the way, I'm making this up just as an example, but show me the money. Show me how it works, and I'll gladly, if I'm already customer focused, I'll gladly invest in a solution that's going to create a better experience, especially when it gives me ROI.
Okay, great. Let's go back to part of your previous answers regarding the importance of human interactions through the contact center channel. I know you are a very profound expert in this topic. How do you see the evolution of contact centers within the customer experience 360?
So 360 meaning, I want to make sure I understand.
Experience, onboarding,
right. Okay.
Problem resolution, post sales. How does voice and human interactions through the contact centers plays a pivotal role today in your experience?
Sure. Well, I think if you start at the very beginning, we want to hire good people that we know have the capability of giving our customers the experience they want. Now, does that mean they have to have experience in the contact center? No. As a matter of fact, Jim Bush, who used to be the Senior VP worldwide of customer service for all of American Express, and he was in charge of everything related to this, contact centers, the processes. What he said was, and it was so important, if I had a choice between somebody with contact center experience and somebody with a hospitality experience, somebody that worked at a restaurant, somebody that worked at a hotel at the front desk, I would take the person who had the hospitality experience. As long as they're smart enough to understand how to, we can teach them how to navigate screens. We can teach them about product information. And by the way, with AI today, I can be spoon-fed product information, so I don't have to be a true expert anymore in the product. I can be lightly trained and let AI help me become smarter when I'm interacting with my customers. So there's a great advantage to that. But I want to start with, who am I hiring first? Number one, that's number one. Number two, onboarding. I'm going to train these folks. What am I going to train them to do? I'm going to train them to do the technical side of service, but I'm going to make sure they understand the soft skills as well, the empathy, the connection that I want to create, how we want to deal with customers. In a confrontational situation, many times customers are going to contact the support center when they're upset and they're angry. How do we diffuse that anger? We need to teach people, and there's a pretty good chance if we hire the right people, they've got the basic skill. We're just going to refine it. As far as product knowledge goes, as I mentioned before, there's some of that, but AI today can help tremendously with that. Now, we move into the contact center. We've got to have a holistic approach. Once again, I think, and I mentioned this earlier, you start with the customer in mind and you work backwards. What can we do to make sure that whatever we're doing and whatever we're thinking about implementing, whatever new process, new way of doing things, let's start with the customer's experience. And is this the experience that we want our customers to have? And we work backwards. And then if they are, in fact, talking to one of our people, so I'm thinking there's two sides. There's a process of self-service, and then there's a process of human-to-human interaction, live agent support. We need to take a look at how easy it is to get to the agent. Are we really making it easy for them to get answers regardless of how they want to get to us? So when they finally do get to us, have we respected the customer's time? One of the biggest detriments to a company is to have a support center that puts somebody on hold for unusually long periods of time constantly reminding them that their call is very important to us, but we're still going to make you a hold for a long time. To me, that's incongruent. But what are we doing to respect our customers' time? So if we can't manage the flow, let them know how long the hold is going to be, and then inform them. We will call you back at a specific time when it's your time. We can estimate what that time is going to be, and you just choose the time you want. If that's not a convenient time, punch in another time on your keypad, and we'll call you back. What we want to do is constantly be thinking customer focused. What part of everything that we do, how does that impact the customer? By the way, I want to go inside the company as well. How does it impact our employees? If we decide to do a really customer-friendly type of solution, but our employees, if they're working the front line, have to do a lot more work in order to make that happen, do you think the employees are going to be happy with that? No. So we need to make sure that the employees are on board with the solution. If we do something that makes it better for the customer, let's not make it worse for employees. Let's ideally make it even better for employees. When we use AI, and AI lets us know, a screen comes up. I've got Mauricio on the line here. He's been with us for 7 years. He's bought this from us before. He calls in with a very similar question every time. So I now know what Mauricio is going to talk to me about most likely. I can also, with AI, if he asks me a question, I can type in the question the right way. Maybe if Mauricio tried to do it on his own, by the way, I'm using you like you're not here in the room. If you tried to do this on your own, Mauricio, and you were struggling, I need you to very quickly and easily get over to talk to me. And you may not know how to type in the question the right way. That may be why you were struggling to get an answer. But Correct. If I'm the agent, I've been trained to type in the question the right way. Now AI can answer the question for me, recognize who you are, and give me a personalized answer that's going to empower me as the agent to be more successful, which is great because I'm going to be that much more fulfilled with my job, knowing that my company has given me the tools so that I can be a rock star for my customers.
Great. Let's change for a while the chapter we're having this conversation right now, Chef, and let's go into the B2B world.
Yep. By the way, everything we've talked about is B2B.
Okay.
It works on both sides. Yep.
And how do you deliver on the experience when the customer is basically representing the interests of another company? For example, you are Siemens, you're a huge technology company, what more, and you're dealing with a customer, which is an organization that has specific goals for that year. How do you create those type of relationships that makes you feel part of the solution, not just a vendor more in the equation?
Right. So a vendor is contacted, and maybe there's 3 or 4 different vendors, and they're all asked to bid on a project or bid on whatever. And all of a sudden, everything becomes all about price. There are some variables that we'll take a look at. I would like companies in the B2B space. And by the way, the biggest difference between B2B and B2C, and I don't want to lose this train of thought that I've got with your question, but the biggest difference is if I walk into a mall, and I want to buy this shirt, there might be 10 stores or more that have this shirt. But depending upon what you do, you're Siemens, how many companies in the world have that same technology? Just a small few. And the problem is, if I blow it and I lose this customer because of the experience wasn't what they wanted, we failed in some place. Guess what happens? It could be years before I get to come back in and bid on this again. One of my clients is a major technology company. They make robotics for major factories. And their machines typically last 8 to 12 years. What they want to do is they want to get you the machine that you need. They are happy to get it to you at a minimal margin of money. What they want to do is make the money on the maintenance and the license of using it and making sure that it's constantly running. And companies will pay a lot more for that. But when it comes to the actual cost of equipment, unless you bundled this in and rolled it in, what they're looking for is they're not looking for a vendor. They're looking for a partner. And as a vendor, you need to start thinking like a partner. Again, back to your original question on this. The difference between a vendor and a partner is a partnership is a vendor relationship on steroids. It can't be taken away for simple ideas because of price. I need to be competitive and I need to create similar value. But if I want to win this customer over, I need to be thinking partnership. So what I want to do is sit down with my customer and I want to say to them, okay, you want us to bid on these glasses and we're going to make, a machine that makes these glasses for you. What I want to do is think about the bigger picture. Let's talk about everything related to, we're just one, our machine is part of it. But what we want to do, if we want to give you the best price, it may not be about a price that we create for you. It may be about a process that's a little different than you're used to, a variance on the machine that you hadn't thought about before. So what happens is I take a look at the bigger picture, not just what I want to try to sell you. And again, if all I'm trying to do is sell you the ink that goes into your printer, that's a commodity. Why do I buy from this company over that company? Well, I remember this company one year came out with the idea of, hey, you don't have to, we know when you're going to run out of ink based on your pattern. You don't ever have to call us anymore. We're just going to send it to you. It's like my Dollar Shave Club. I shave my head, my face. They just send me new blades every month. I don't even need to think about it. So they're my partner, if you will. Now I'm going long-winded here, which seems to be what I typically do. But it's so important that we start thinking partnership, not just vendor, not just price for product, but what is the whole process look like? What value can we bring just beyond this interaction? Something you talked about earlier, interaction versus transaction. So I don't want it to be transactional where every single time they need more, they send it out to bid and I got to once again bid against 5 other vendors. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be their partner. So maybe they'll ask to rebid every 3 or 4 cycles instead of every cycle.
Okay, great. And in the strategic arena, Chef, there's a very famous question that was posted to Jeff Bezos regarding what will not change, because he said to that question that it is better to think about topics that will not change with technology and will remain. And it seems to me that customer experience is something that will never change. People will always like better pricing, better servicing, agility. How do you envision the topics that will not change in CX based on your experience? How can you enlighten us about this topic?
This was I think might have been the first chapter in the last book I wrote titled I'll Be Back, How to Get Customers to Come Back Again and Again. Or it was in one of the early chapters. And basically I said, nothing has changed. Nothing. Okay. We can go back 100 years, 500 years, and we can go out 1,000 years. And this is what's going to happen. Customer has an issue, a question, a problem, a complaint, and then they want to get it resolved. And when it's over, they want to be happy. That's not going to change. Okay. How we go about it is definitely changing, but the reason we do it is not changed. So how we go about it today, we're integrating technology. Are we creating a better solution? We need to always be thinking, if we want to have a relationship that's based on value with our customers, we cannot separate us so much using technology that we become simply a commodity. We're just an entity they do business with. They don't care about us as long as it does what it's supposed to do, whatever it is we buy, and the process is easy. It seems to me that we're kind of heading down that road. And if we're not careful, we are going to commoditize so much of what we do. And again, the way that we make the magic happen, the relationship built, is by saying, all right, what we want to do is we want to keep that customer. How are we going to do that? We can't just, let's talk about Jeff Bezos. Why do people love doing business with Amazon? He figured something out. People don't like to receive a lot of emails, but they do like to receive emails when they know it's important to them. For example, if I place an order, I immediately get an email. Your order's been placed. I immediately get an email when it's shipped. It's been shipped. Here's the shipping information. Here's another email to tell you it's arrived and it was signed for by so-and-so, or, there's sometimes even a picture of it. What Jeff Bezos figured out is customers want confidence and they want trust. That is never going to change. So he figured out ways to build that into a digital automated experience that's completely self-serve. If you have a real problem, by the way, you can talk to Amazon employees. You can get them on the phone. They force you, and it's okay. They force you into their website saying, what's your problem? Is it about this product? Tell us what happened. And within a short matter of time, their AI will say, we're going to connect you with a live person. Put your phone number in right here. And you do. And within seconds, the phone rings and there's an Amazon employee there to help you. They don't want you to go human first. They want you to go digital first. But that human backup is what makes that customer realize they're always going to be there to take care of me. Now, by the way, I don't know if that's going to change in the next 2 or 3 or 5 years with Amazon. But at this point, just take a look at the best in the business. They've cracked the code on how to create the experience that customers trust. And there's very, very little human-to-human contact, but it's there when it's needed.
Great. I know that you have a vast experience in a lot of sectors, Chef, and in the health sector, now that it's part of the larger conversation because everybody's complaining about insurance, health, how companies are taking care of the issues. What have you seen that makes sense and has worked for top hospitals, health professionals? What is the advice that you could provide to that audience regarding memorable experiences, magic moments?
Sure. Well, number one, we want to make it easy for all customers, regardless of the industry we're in, but specifically in healthcare. Let me give you some examples of, the most basic examples. What's the process in getting a patient or somebody come into an office to meet with a doctor? Normally, I would have to pick up the phone, call, and make an appointment. But today, if I'm already a patient, why should I have to call? Why not go into their portal? Why not make the appointment? I can see the calendar of available times. I can match it against mine. That way, I don't have to pick up the phone. I don't have to call, be put on hold while the person's desk is helping somebody that's there in person. So that's one example. How about the onboarding of a new patient, or maybe just the mere fact I'm coming in for my annual physical? It used to be I would show up and I'd be given a clipboard and I've been told to fill out all these forms. Now I do it ahead of time. And here's what's really cool. It used to be, I used to put my name, my address, my social security, or whatever identifying number I have on every single form. And now, once I put it in digitally, it auto-populates all the other forms for me, so I don't have to do it. Saves me time, saves me effort. The medical office knows that I'm coming in. They have everything I need. It's the same thing as I prepare for any major, if I'm going to a hospital system and I'm getting ready for surgery, I'm going to do a lot of this work ahead of time. So when I get there, the only thing we all have to worry about is taking care of the patient.
Okay, great.
So automation in the experience is important there. By the way, once again, I want to emphasize, if we need human-to-human support, I can always call and get it.
Okay, great. And what other, I know that you're permanently reviewing data and best practices all around the world. What would be your findings recently of who is overperforming in the customer experience arena that you say, wow?
That's a great question. There are, I look at all the companies around the world and I look at all the ratings that they're getting. I actually, on my research, I do a US-based research and ask, what are the companies you love? If you can give me, and it's a totally open-ended question, the 3 companies that you enjoy doing business with the most. Okay. Now, what do you think the number 1 company is? You know the answer. We've already talked about that company. It's Amazon. And around the world, it's the exact same thing. And then you start looking, I'm actually looking at my research now. But the companies that have done very, very well, that when, and by the way, we ask thousands of people this year after year. So Amazon is always number one. You've got in the US, you've got Target. I believe you have Target down. Do you have a Target down?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. But it's, you know, it's just a major retailer that sells pretty much everything. You've got Walmart down there. Yes. Or a version of Walmart. Yes. Apple Computer is highly regarded. A US based company, Chick-fil-A, in the, you know, food service, from the standpoint of fast food, very, very well regarded. So all of the companies that seem to rise to the top, everybody seems to choose these companies by a big margin. You've got some, you know, who's your favorite company to do business with? They'll mention the shoe repair store down the street. Okay, but unfortunately, there's thousands of people, and there's only one person that gave them that all-star rating. But that's what we see. You know, another thing that, you know, we talked about a little bit when I ask a second open-ended question is, what 3 words best describe excellent customer service and experience? And this is what they said. And I think people, for whatever reason, after taking the survey, realized we're talking a lot about not just AI and the process. We talk about people. This is what they want: friendly, helpful, knowledgeable. Those 3. That's so powerful. By the way, number 4, convenience. They want convenience. They want it to be easy. So I just think these are really, you know, going back to the question you had at the very, very beginning, common sense is a word you use. Common sense is not always so common, but look at how easy it could be if we just paid attention to what our customers want and expect. It's common sense.
Okay, and is there any clear differences regarding generations nowadays? You mentioned that.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, let's just take one important stat. In fact, we talked a little bit about, I mentioned 70% of customers would prefer to use the phone more than any other channel. I'm going to go to my research here real quickly and find out. There we go. Telephone is 70%. Online chat with a live agent is 62%. This is how people want to contact us. Now, let's take a look at just the phone. 70% of the customers. Baby boomers make up almost half of that number. And then you get down to Gen Z, it's only 20%. You know, less than half of the Gen Zs feel that the telephone is the most important point. And there was a stat that I had, I don't see it here, but there was a point that you can't ignore Gen Z. Here's what they said. Online chat is the #1 preference for Gen Z versus telephone for baby boomers, the older generation. So you've got to start looking at what your customers want and expect. Younger customers are used to having a device in their hand, a mobile phone, if you want to call it that. And guess what? They're hardly using it for a telephone. They're using it for everything else. If this is how they like to communicate, texting, on an app, through social media, whatever, we've got to learn specifically in our company who it is that we do business with and how they like to communicate. Because I'll promise you this, Siemens does not have customers going on social media asking for support. They just don't. Okay. There's a pretty good chance there's going to be a ticket that's submitted, and there's a process that takes place with a larger B2B type company that's selling a huge solution like a Siemens. Versus, you know, I bought something. I bought these glasses from Warby Parker, and for whatever reason, I must have the lens is not right. And I go online, and they just, here's a number or an address, send it back to us. Put this label in it, and you'll have your glasses back within a week. We'll fix them for you. So, I mean, there's just so many different ways to communicate. We just need to choose the right channel based on the type of business we are and the type of customer and the demographic of that customer that we have.
Okay, great. I know, Shep, you have a lot of books out there. In some of your topics, which are brilliant in many ways, but specifically in how do you deal with angry customers, frustration. broken promises. What is your best advice in how to deal to recuperate those clients?
Well, first
What
of
is
all,
your
I think that if you break a promise, you know, I always say it's very easy to fix a product that's broken. You can send somebody a new one, send them a new part, give them, whatever. But if there's a breakdown that's due to communication, and I consider if I make a promise to you, I've communicated something to you and you break it, that is a harder issue to overcome, that harder moment of misery. So there are ways to build trust and ways to lose trust. And
okay?
I think that they're so simple. They're what our parents taught us. Be polite, please, and thank you. I'm showing you respect, okay? Do what I say I'm going to do. That's keeping my promise. If I tell you I'm going to call you back in an hour, I'm going to call you back in an hour. Another piece is to not deflect and blame others. I could say to you, I ship something to you. This is where Amazon, we'll go back to Jeff Bezos. He used to say we shouldn't need a customer support department. Customer service should be so good, nobody needs to call us. And that's great until that product left the warehouse and one of the carriers like FedEx, DHL, UPS, US Post Office, whatever the local carriers are in any of the countries that are listening to this, it's great until they fail and the customer says, I didn't get my order from Amazon. I'm going to call Amazon. Amazon doesn't say, well, it looks like your order went out 3 weeks ago. It's not our fault that, Federal Express or FedEx didn't get it to you. No, Amazon takes responsibility. They don't deflect. Now, they may go after FedEx or DHL or one of these other carriers to take care of it, but we're going to make it easy for you, our customer. After all, you bought from us, you trust us to get it to you. We're the ones that chose to use this carrier, and we'll take care of you. So that's what we want to do. We want to prove that level of ownership and accountability. So I'll go and say that deflection, no good. You have to own what comes your way. You have to be accountable. So show respect, do what you say you're going to do, and just show a level of ownership and accountability at every step of the way.
Great. Final, I know and thanks again for your time and sharing your knowledge, Chef. One of my final questions is regarding to digital disruption. I've read a lot about this, and there's a lot of theorists out there mentioning that digital disruption is when a company starts capturing in a very short period of time between 10 or 50% of market share of incumbents, people that have been doing this forever, because they found out there's part of the chain of the service is broken and somebody can do it much better, basically because there's an area to better serve the customer. What is your take regarding digital disruptions per se? Is it technology that does the disruption, or finding an area in which a customer is not satisfied with the current events of how it's being serviced?
We have to take a look at the companies that changed over the years and morphed and are able to do what they want to do. I mean, we can even go to Amazon. Amazon, Jeff Bezos said, I'm going to sell books. I'm going to sell books in a more convenient way. And by the way, I'm going to use this word convenience because I think so much of the disruption is due to a better, easier, quicker, faster, less friction kind of way. In other words, a more convenient way. So Bezos says, I'm going to sell books. So you don't have to go to the bookstore anymore. Just come online and look at my website. And when you open up and click on the book, you're going to get to read the foreword, the first few pages. You're going to get an idea of what that book's about. And we're going to sell it to you at a reasonable price. Today's pricing from Amazon is not all that much. In many cases, it can't even be higher. But people trust Amazon so much that they'll pay the higher price. That's a side subject, but it's important. Yes. Jeff Bezos was working off a price. Number one, he could do it because he didn't have a brick and mortar store. So he said, we can pass savings on to you because of our process. And people like that process. And over time, he built up beyond books. He started showing, we can sell anything this way. So this is the point. Nobody ever thought there'd be another way to buy these glasses. I can buy them online at Warby Parker. I can see hundreds of frames. They take a picture of my face, and this is what I look like. They keep switching. It's amazing what we can do. Who would have ever thought that would have happened? I use that as an example of technology is driving a better experience, which is why the disruption comes from a convenience. Uber and Lyft, for example. Uber completely disrupted the taxi cab industry, because they created a better way. I lived out in the suburbs. So if I, at one point, wanted to call to get a taxi to take me to the airport, I'd have to make a phone call. And then I'd have to, the guy said, okay, I'll be there in 30 minutes. And about 40 minutes later, I'm going, I wonder if the guy's ever going to show up. So I call and I hear the dispatcher talking to the driver in the background. Yeah, I'll be there in a few minutes. I'm almost there. So I've got this friction. Then I get in the car. They don't know where I'm going. I go into the airport. I get out to the airport. They go, by the way, it's $12. And I take out my wallet and I spend an extra few minutes doing that. Uber figured out a way to eliminate all of that. So what I think the companies need to look at today, whether they're using technology or going straight analog, old school, I want you to look at the journey that your customers are taking and take a look at every interaction that they have and ask yourself, is there a way that we could do this better? Is a competitor, have they found a way to do this moment, this particular interaction better? And we need to take a look at that and recognize it. Again, we're not playing catch up and keep up with technology. We're playing catch up and keep up with the loss of the customers and the market share as a result of another company finding a way to disrupt us. There will always be a disruptor in every industry. And we just need to make sure we're paying close enough attention to know who they are. In the book that I wrote, I'll Be Back, I have this 6-step process. Why should someone do business with us? And by the way, it's 6 questions. Why does somebody do business with the competition? What is that competition doing that we should be doing? And why not implement something similar to that? Ideally, we don't want to copy it because that just makes us the same. Now, number 4 is to look outside of the industry. What are the companies we love doing business with, and be very specific as to why? And then number 5 is, of the reasons we love doing business with them, that why we love doing business, is it something that we could do in our business they're not even in our industry, but maybe they're doing something that would make us create a better experience. Now we're no longer best in our industry. We're becoming best in the world class based on implementing ideas outside of our industry. And finally, the 6th question is, if we've gone through these 5 steps and we found things that our competitors are doing, or we found things that our other companies that we love are doing and we've implemented them, let's go back to that first question. Why would somebody want to do business with us now, especially that we've implemented all these great things? So that's that 6-step process. I want to see us constantly thinking about, is a competitor beating us out with an idea, or is there somebody else in the world that is doing something that we should be doing?
Great. Well, Shep, thanks again for your time. This has been an incredible opportunity to get from a world leader regarding the topic of CX to share his knowledge and his learnings all around these years. I would finally say, Shep, if people wanted to get in contact with you and see your reviews and a lot of your experiences, where can they find you?
Well, there's 2 places to go. Obviously, my website, hyken.com, Hyken. But also, if you want, I have hundreds of videos on my YouTube channel. And if you just go to Shep TV, SHEP TV.com, there you land right on my page. And every single week, I'm posting new videos based on what I write about. So if you go to my website, you'll get my newsletter at no charge. You'll also get my annual research at no charge. And if you want to watch me on video, you can do that on YouTube. So those are 2 great areas.
Thank you so much for your time, Shep. It's been an enjoyable time. I hope to see you back in Latin America very soon.
I hope so. Bring me back. I can't wait. One of my my favorite memories are us hanging out, having incredible dinners and meeting some amazing people in between the presentations that we did day after day. So I hope to come back sooner than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Chef. Have a great one.
You too.
Gracias por haber permanecido con nosotros hasta el final de este episodio. En esta ocasión, quiero invitarlos en 15 días a una nueva emisión de SEO CX. Y recuerda, suscríbete.